Lexi. I like that.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Lexi. I'm back. I'm going to tell you guys a story that happened years ago, and it takes place at my dad's house. So I'm going to talk about my experience, my dad's experience, and my two brothers' experiences at this house. And before we start, if you like scary videos, consider subscribing, consider liking. We have a huge playlist of scary videos. Okay, so let's just get into it. Also, I'm sick, so if I start sounding like Bert from Bert and Ernie, that's why. I'm sorry. So my dad owns a sober living, and my dad has been clean for about 15 years. And the person who owned it before him had been clean for years. Like, he's an older man, very well known in the rooms for being someone who is like very, very good at helping people out and giving him the right steps, but also being like really blunt and straightforward. And he was loved by many. He's Native American, so he was very spiritual and very in touch with Native in him. His house showed that. Like, everything in the house, everything in his room was very spiritual. So my dad moved in when he was like 8 to 10 years, and he moved in to help Jimmy manage everybody. Jimmy obviously had the biggest room, and there was very much a good energy in that house, especially the room. My dad lived in one room, my older brother lived in one room, and then there's a roommate named Vinny. He lived in like one of the back rooms. Vinny was also Native American. My baby brother Ethan, he was always at the house as well. I was out running amok. I was not clean, not sober, and my dad was just begging me to stay with him, and I just was not having it. I didn't want to get clean. One day I get a call from my dad, from my brothers, that Jimmy passed. He was older, but he was very fit. He exercised every day, and the way he passed was not natural, and it was kind of traumatic. I'm just going to talk about my dad and my brother's experiences and the way they told me. So my dad said he woke up in the middle of the night, and he went into the garage, which is where Jimmy was always hanging out. He was always in there watching TV, exercising. He went in there, he saw Jimmy, and he knew automatically that he had passed. He tried to go up to him, tried to give him CPR, tried to wake him up, and it wasn't working. When he goes into my brother's room, tries to wake him up to help him. And in my brother's experience, he said that he was already asleep. He said he kept hearing his name being called again and again and telling him to wake up. Abel, wake up. And then he had a dream that the figure that was calling out to him went to grab him by the face and was trying to rip his face off. My brother finally wakes up, and at the same time that he wakes up, my dad walks into the room and says, "Hey, Abel, get up. Jimmy just passed." So they had to help him up. They called the coroner. That's one of the things that was kind of weird, like those dreams, and my dad's like kind of like little hunch to go check on Jimmy. Few months pass, and that's when I come in. I finally get my shit together. At this point, I had like a month under my belt. I'm still having bad thoughts, but my dad and my brothers really helped me out. Like, they're really supporting me. My dad's only rules was that I had to hit a meeting every day and to not use, but especially not to use in the house. And he's like, that's not even my rule, that's a Jimmy rule. So I start getting comfortable, and then I start noticing a couple weird things happening. Before Jimmy passed, he used to love to play blackjack on his computer. He had his computer set up on a little desk, and then right next to it was this heavy ass door. It wasn't only heavy, but it like didn't fit the frame, so you had to literally pick it up to open it. And that door led to the garage, which is where Jimmy used to hang out, and then it would lead to the backyard. So on nights that I couldn't sleep, I would go outside in the living room and watch TV in there. And this one night, I'm out there watching Netflix. I have like my little blanket, and then I start to hear the computer turning on. That infamous Microsoft startup noise. You know the noise. No one used the computer, by the way. That was Jimmy's. Jimmy didn't fuck around. That was his computer. So I ignore it because I'm facing the TV. The computer is behind me, so I can't see it anyway. But then I start to see light reflect on the TV from the computer being on. So I turn around, and fucking blackjack is up. It's up on the computer. The fucking mouse cursor is moving. I'm so shocked. I'm just like, keep in mind, I didn't feel scared. I was scared because this was happening, but I didn't feel like it was bad, you know? In my mind, I'm like, it's just Jimmy, chill. So the next morning, I'm talking to my brother and my dad, and I'm telling him what happened. I'm like, dude, the computer turned on, the blackjack thing came on, and the cursor was moving. And he's laughing, and they both look at each other like, yeah, that happens all the time. I'm freaked out. And he's like, oh, just wait till you're sitting there by yourself in the dark. And he does the other thing. The other thing, there's another thing. After a few days, I man up. I start going to the living room again at night. I still see him playing blackjack. And then one night, I'm sitting there, I'm just ignoring it. And I just hear, BAM! That big ass door that no one can move unless you pick it up fucking slammed. Not only was that door closed, so it had to have opened by itself and then slammed by itself. There's also a lamp. It's one of those that like you touch it once, it turns on, touch it again, turn it off. The first time I had seen anything weird about that lamp, all of us were together. So me, my dad, my brother, were sitting down watching TV, and the light starts going out, like it's going on, off. And he keeps doing it again and again. And of course, I'm the one that's sitting right fucking next to it. So I'm like, what the fuck is that? My dad, being the kind of dad he is, he's like, it's just Jimmy, calm down. We grew up in haunted houses, so he doesn't really care. My brother goes and he like unplugs it. And then it starts turning on again, even though it's unplugged. The energy was still really good. It was still really playful and fun. I was doing really well. Everyone else was doing really well. I was going to meetings. And then my dad let this chick move in. We're gonna call her Diana. This girl was also pretty well known in like the meeting world, but not for good stuff. She was known for staying clean for like a month and then relapsing and then staying clean and then relapsing. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason why she was not well liked, because anytime that she would relapse, she would literally lose her marbles. She would steal from the person she's staying with. One time she stole Jimmy's old car after he had already passed, just so she can go pick up. As soon as she moved in, literally the entire vibe was off. And I started to feel very alone, really sad. I felt like I just didn't want to be clean anymore. My dad was even acting super weird. Like, he was obviously stressed because of her, but it seemed like he always had a fucking bad attitude. He just wasn't his normal self. Well, obviously, like, there's tension in the house. Everyone's gonna notice. Anyway, I was trying to push through, and this one day I came back to the house from work and nobody was home. I see Diana come out of her room and she's like very clearly dope sick. She comes up to me and she asks me like, hey, can you get anything? Can you get any? I have an attitude with her. I'm like, no. And I walk away and she keeps trying to convince me like, you don't have anything, like you don't have any connect. I finally give in and I'm like, yeah, I can, but you gotta smoke me out. So we end up getting some, and we both end up smoking in the house. Big no-no. It caused us both to go into like a full-blown relapse. It was one of like the worst relapses of my life. I had gone back to Matt and he was like abusing me. I OD'd there. A bunch of stuff happened and I literally had to call my dad from a random fucking like Obama phone and tell him like, hey, he has me held hostage, like please come pick me up. And I had to run my ass to the gas station down the street from the house with a little fucking luggage, and he came and picked me up at like 3-4 in the morning. My poor dad, my poor family, like my sister's brothers and my mom. I feel so bad for how much bullshit I put them through. Oh my god. I finally go back and I try to get clean again. Things are good again, we get new roommates, and this bitch comes back saying she has a month clean. The cycle fucking starts all over again. My dad's like full on supporting her. She still has the audacity to start getting high, stays clean for a little bit, relapses, and she steals from my dad. She manipulates him. He just looks so tired. It's just a mess for years that this goes on. I end up moving out and a bunch of people start moving out like, dude, we can't fucking take this shit anymore. I eventually get clean. So a few weeks ago, I was out eating with my mom and my little brother, and we started talking about like my dad's house and Jimmy and a couple of the other roommates. I asked him about Diana. He's like, oh, you didn't hear? Like, he finally kicked her out. He kicked her to the curb and he actually caught this bitch using in Jimmy's room. I was like, what? No way, I didn't hear that. Well, not only that, like weeks before that, a bunch of the roommates were saying like, she's sneaking people in there, she's doing some weird shit in there, it smells weird in there. And when my dad finally like went and kicked her out, he started cleaning the entire room out. He started finding some nasty shit, drug residue, but like blood and like dead shit. My dad and some of the roommates, they go and like they clean everything out. He had like a nagging feeling like something's not right. So he goes and gets Vinny, which is one of the roommates, takes him to the room like, hey, like what does it feel like in here? Vinny, he's like, yeah, it definitely feels like she was doing something evil in here. So they end up doing a Native American prayer, smudge the entire room, they clean out the room, and they ended up blessing the entire house. So I haven't heard anything since then, but I did want to tell you guys that story. Anyway, I hope you liked the video, and if you do, if you want to subscribe or like, please do. And until then, I'll see you later. Bye.
And you don't seem to